Welcome back to Chat Shit. Round 12 is in the books. Struggling to speak with you in a positive tone because of what I just saw from my beloved Sydney Swans. My team, my religion, my hope every year. They served up absolute dog water for us this week and have done in back-to-back weeks. And we're going to get into that later, I promise you. I know that that's kind of the talk of the town in the AFL this round is the Swans fall from grace this year. We're going to start off with some positives, which is who are the best players this round that we can highlight. There's some really impressive performances. I'll start you off with my number 5, Aiden, and it's my favourite part of this segment, which is defender appreciation. And it's Josh Worrell, who played for Adelaide. I think he's featured in your list earlier in the season, but he just gobbled up absolutely everything that the Swans sent forward. Jordan Butts did a couple of times as well, but really it was Josh Worrell just every time the Swans got anything forward, which was rarely. Josh Worrell just sent it back the other way. Intercept marks and a lot of intercept possessions. Very clean with the footy. Great performance.
I did it. You probably could have picked any one of those Adelaide defenders because the amount of intercept marks, I haven't actually seen the stat, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were close to or even broke the record.
Yeah,
the amount of intercept
seriously.
marks that they took in that game.
I don't think we had the ball enough for them to get enough intercept marks.
Seriously, but I had a guy that at one point looked like he was going to play AFL footy again. It was first game of the year. Dion Prestia.
Yeah, wow.
In a losing team, goal 31, 9 score involvements. To do that first game back, looked like he hadn't missed a game of footy, but I thought it was really impressive.
Yep. At my number 4, it's back-to-back defender appreciation. It's a guy who was best on the field by a mile, I reckon, and it was Callan Ward, the All-Australian fullback. Led the game in possessions, which is rare for him, but he had 15 marks, a couple of them contested, and so many of them intercept marks. Really clean with the footy as well. And yeah, he just completely dominated that Melbourne attack. The Saints' advantage in that game was clearly their defence over Melbourne's attack, that matchup, and Callan Ward made sure that they absolutely dominated that part of the ground.
I have him a little bit later on for my defender appreciation in the top 5. My fourth placed player was a guy from another losing team. I had Noah Anderson in my top 5. Putting back-to-back performances, ridiculous performances, but his overall season has been incredible. But 39 touches, really tried to will his team for that victory, to pull it back in that last quarter, but they couldn't quite manage it.
Yeah, my number 3 player. I like that we don't have any players in common so far. I don't have either of those guys that you've said so far. My number 3 is a player you didn't think of, mate. And it's a player that I'm going to put forward an All-Australian case here after round 12. Jasper Fletcher.
Oh. Nice.
The role that he is playing on that wing for Brisbane, shot out last year as a player in that incredibly strong Brisbane side that they could not leave out of the 22 because he was such a solid sort of back pocket. But then they've thrown him on the wing this year, and the way that he has performed has been absolutely remarkable. Behind the ball, he works his absolute butt off, and he is awesome defensively as a lockdown defender. And then when they go forward, he just runs up and down, and he just contributed a goal this week. 21 possessions, Aiden. He went at 100%. That's 17 kicks out of his 21 disposals, and he went at 100%.
It's not easy kicks either.
Yeah. So he's looking at my screen right now. That is a serious performance. He is just that absolute glue guy in that Brisbane team, full of stars in that midfield. He is what's keeping it together with his defensive work, and I've absolutely loved it.
Also got a lot of minutes off the half-back line.
Yeah.
And he's playing really well with Zorko back there this season. My number 3, I've missed a 4-bounce man on the wing. I've Steel Sidebottom. Now, legacy game, you could say, for Steel Sidebottom, and he's picking up some serious Brownlow votes. Yep. I'd be interested to see where he is. He's probably not too high because he will get managed at some point.
Yeah. Well, another guy who will almost certainly be in that wing position in the All-Australian team.
Yeah, 100%. But 2 goals, 27. He had the game in his own hands. Looked like he was controlling it, and serious kind. It's not like he really fell off. But he's having an All-Australian year, which is quite incredible.
Going for a second All-Australian team after he was selected in 2018. Another player that I don't have in my top 5 for this week. I thought it was a few more even performances across the board.
Yeah.
My number 2 was a player from the same team, Jamie Elliott. A 5-goal performance, and part of this is a bit of bias on how he's performed in previous weeks. But 5 goals and 2 goal assists, he just makes sure that every time he touches the ball, it's just something good for Collingwood, and anytime it heads his way, it's something good for Collingwood. The amount of goals that he's kicking as a small forward is simply ridiculous. I'd like to pull up the stats. I don't actually have them. So 5 this week against Hawthorn, one of the notoriously best defences going around. 5 last week against North Melbourne. And we go back another week against Adelaide. He kicked a goal, and then the week before that, I believe he had 6. I just want to make sure I'm not mistaken about that. Yep, 6 against Fremantle. So that's 17 goals in 4 weeks. He is just by far the dominant small forward in the league right now.
And I am going to mention him a little bit later in another segment. So my number 2, I had Callan Ward. We mentioned him earlier. Now, I wasn't actually able to watch this game, but what gave me a pretty good idea was when I was listening to the commentary on the way home in the car, and I continued to hear his name. Callan Ward, he's there again. He's there again. Intercept mark. Absolute rock at the back. Then you see 31 touches, 90% efficiency. I mean... Yep.
Not much more he can do.
Probably had an argument for number 1.
I'm going to say we both have the same number 1 here. It's Hugh McCluggage.
It's Hugh McCluggage.
Yep. An incredible performance. He's a guy that's been in the All-Australian squad. I just love talking about the All-Australian team personally. He's been in the squad, I think, 5 times now, the 40-man squad. 4 or 5 times.
He's never been All-Australian.
He's never been All-Australian, and I reckon there's never even been a year where people reckon he should have been there. I think this will be that this could easily be that year for him, because what a performance he had.
It's going to be tough.
I think everyone just saw how good he was.
I think we'll do a halfway through the season update on who we think is going to be in the All-Australian team, but he's in the toughest position.
Yeah. I reckon that'll be our segment next week.
Yeah, I like that. I like Hugh McCluggage as well. Absolutely ran the game. You can't even pay attention to, at this point, Lachie Neale, because I think Hugh McCluggage is almost the guy you have to tag. It seems like his touches do maximum damage. He's kicking goals every game. And if you go to one guy, you leave the other guy free. So Brisbane.
Yeah. Talk about sticking out in this star-studded Brisbane midfield. Had the most score involvements of the 46 players in the game by 5. Had the most disposals by 11. Had the most contested possessions on the ground by 2. And had 11 marks to go along with it. He was just doing everything. A couple of goal assists, 13 inside 50s.
4 tackles.
Yep, and he just was an absolute force to be reckoned with. We're going to jump now into your special segment for this week. Yep. I don't know what it's going to be.
Yeah, so what we're going to start doing every week, it's a guess the player. So I've picked a random player in the competition. I'm going to start off by giving 3 stats. Pretty broad stats.
It's going to be really disappointing when I guess it after the first 3 stats.
It will be pretty disappointing. And then you're going to have a crack at the guess, or you can pass if you have no idea, and then I'm going to continue adding a stat.
I'm never passing.
And another stat until we finally get there.
Never passing.
So I'll start. This player has played for 2 clubs. He was drafted 19th. And on the weekend, he had his lowest career disposal game.
Oh, wow. Okay. Let's go with... Wait, we might have to cut through some of the thinking. I'm going to have a random guess. Don't think it's right. I'm going to go with a Swans player because he had the lowest career disposal. Let's go with Joel Hamling.
Okay, it's incorrect. I'll go on to the next stat. He's currently playing his football outside of Melbourne.
Playing his footy outside of Melbourne? That does not help me, man.
No. Each stat will narrow it down.
Okay, we'll go with another Swans player. We'll go with Aaron Francis.
Okay, incorrect. This one could help a lot. He was drafted in 2007.
Wow, so he's got to be one of the oldest players in the league, if not the oldest. Luke Parker.
Incorrect. It's a good guess.
Wait, no, I knew he was drafted 2010, and I knew that.
But one of the facts was he's currently playing his football outside of Melbourne.
Oh, okay.
So I'll go to the next stat.
That is true.
This player was drafted to the Western Bulldogs.
So drafted to the Western Bulldogs. You said he's played for 2 teams. 2007 is a long time ago. Like, I don't know. David Swallow's not played 300 games, I don't think. He was the sub, though. Okay, I'll go with David Swallow.
Incorrect. Not a good guess, though. This player plays for a team in New South Wales.
Oh, my gosh. It's a Swans player, probably. See, this is where I was going to say the 2-team thing. You know Jake Stringer played for 3 teams, correct? Okay, as long as he's aware of that. He's played Bulldogs.
I don't think he's played 300 games either.
Yeah. And it's not 2007. 2007 is crazy. Oh, is it Callan Ward?
It is Callan Ward.
Should have got that so much earlier.
I thought it was relevant to this round. He's potentially played his last game in the AFL. Had his low. I thought that would really throw you off.
Okay, Aiden's going to have to do a lot of editing there. You won't see it, but there was a lot of me just thinking while staring off into the distance.
He got 1 disposal in the game on the weekend after a suspected ACL tear. Really unfortunate. But then gave the speech, I don't know if you saw it, to the GWS guys at 3/4 time. Adam Kingsley didn't actually talk to the players at 3/4 time. Callan Ward gave the speech, and GWS they had a huge comeback in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, which is awesome.
So I thought it was relevant. The last two stats where he was a Giants player, and he was the number 8.
Yeah.
That was the final stats. But yeah, we're going to do a guess the player every single week. I'll try and pick obscure players, but I thought that lowest career disposal game on the weekend.
Yeah, it's a good stat. It's a good
really
hint.
Throw you off.
I failed you guys. I'll try to be better in the next one.
We're going to move into the next segment in hits and misses.
I'll start us off with my hit. It's the Adelaide Crows. They're proving that they're the real deal. They're now coming third on the ladder with the best percentage in the league. And it goes without saying what happened this week. As a Swans fan, we're going to talk about them in a moment. So I won't talk much about the Swans. But Adelaide just handed us the biggest defeat that I've ever watched in a live game. And I think I've been to 180 games live in my lifetime. So the pressure just throughout the game and the relentless pressure, not letting their foot off the gas when they were just having a comfortable win, was seriously impressive. Their defense, which is usually seen as a weakness in terms of their personnel, was the best part of them on the field. And yeah, they just kicked goals so easily. Ben Keys, what a performance he had in the grudge match for him because of how his moment a couple of years ago. So an amazing performance by the Crows, proving that they should be viewed as grand final contenders.
I won't give my thoughts on Adelaide. I'll do that. I'll talk more about the Swans when we go to our miss. My hit was actually West Coast, and they did lose.
Yeah.
But just the footy they're playing is really exciting footy for such a young and inexperienced side. And they took it to Geelong. And that last quarter, for a period before Jeremy Cameron, added some garbage time goals, as you like to say, the game was really close, and they really took it to them after. They could have really fallen away early. I think the margin was around 30 points in the first quarter, and they didn't back down. Oscar Allen found a bit of form. Harley Reid played well. A couple of the guys with under 50 games played really well, and I think it's just something that Eagles fans can look forward to.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all you can ask for. There's zero expectations from the Eagles team at the moment, but they're playing exciting footy.
Yeah. Am I allowed to ruin the vibe with some negativity?
It's coming, isn't it?
No, I'm just saying, talking about your hit. What sort of state are you in as a football team when you're about 5 years into a rebuild, like a proper 5 years into the depths of 17th, 18th, and we're lauding your performance when you lose by 43?
Yeah.
What does that say about the state of your football club?
It'd be fan to fan, sort of. It depends. Each fan would have a different perspective. Like, was the 2018 Premiership worth it? Yeah. I reckon majority would say yes. That's just I'd
agree.
That's my view, because they did it to themselves. They knew this was coming. They probably didn't think it was going to go on for this long. But, I mean, I reckon they'd be happy to take it, considering they gambled their chips and it paid off.
Now some proper negativity. It's our joint miss for this week. We decided to have a chat about the Sydney Swans. I don't want to go on about it. We've talked quite a bit over the last couple of days. Had time to reflect.
Yes.
And yeah, I think I've heard a couple of people in the media talking about it, and I'm starting to think that this is not a bad form patch. There are some serious issues with the Swans list and the Swans attitude, and we're in a deeper hole than I thought we were in a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, it says a lot when the fans, the loudest cheer in the game was when the Swans kicked it behind. I've never
fans
seen
mocking the players.
I've never seen the Swans beaten up so badly, and we knew it was a danger game going in. The Swans haven't been great defensively this year. Adelaide were top 4 going into the game and have a great forward line.
Yeah.
So we knew it was a danger game, but the fight was kicked out of them almost before the first bounce went.
It's constant missed tackles. Just Adelaide players, you can just see when there's a ball going to ground after a contest. Well, one, we just don't have the talent in terms of winning the aerial contest. And then when it does go to ground, just the Adelaide players hungry, getting to the ball and fighting for it, and the Swans players sort of sitting back, waiting for someone else to go and do the dirty work. There are real issues going on in how this team is being coached, and also what the players are putting up, because they're clearly just not playing with confidence or motivation. The missed tackles, and to have this sort of stretch, you want to at least say they're putting in a good effort and they're being disciplined. But they're giving out, I think, about 3 times as many 50-metre penalties this season as the next most of any team.
Just the discipline in terms of suspensions as well.
Yeah, most suspensions in the league, most 50-metre penalties. And I think that just to have those 2 stats and to be clear above the rest of the league in both those stats, that is so provides such an insight into what's going on with this team. Because those two things have zero to do with talent, zero to do with injuries, zero to do with adjusting to a new coach. This is a culture thing at the moment that they got to find something. My mum said something like they got to get Longmire, Paul Roos, and Dean Cox in a room together and talk it out. My immediate knee-jerk reaction on Saturday was to say, geez, they got to be looking at Dean Cox's job here. But I don't think that it's new. He's been thrown in right after a horrifying grand final loss. And I'm going to trust that with the training process he went through under John Longmire, that they have that they saw good things in him for a reason. But yeah, he's got a hole to dig the Swans out of at the moment.
I think the least you can ask for in a game is effort.
Yeah.
And that's why I lauded West Coast in my hit this week, is because I saw the effort, the run. They ran themselves into the ground. And if you watch Collingwood play, a lot of their game is built off forward half turnovers, how much they press the ball and they all work for each other. And that looks like it was completely out of the game on the weekend. Yes, the Swans don't have forward targets, but you can be there to spoil the ball and then press it on the ground. And I don't think you can blame injuries anymore. I think we're well past being able to blame injuries. 2 or 3 players, I know, yes, key players in the team are out, but that can't replicate the entire team's performance.
Yep.
I think we can comfortably say season over now. I know you were optimistic last week, but I think we can comfortably say that.
Yeah.
We've got Richmond leading into the bye, and then the Bulldogs after that. Port Adelaide, then the Bulldogs after that. Sad to see that the year's been written off after the grand final loss, but it does seem like the scars of the last 2 grand finals that the Swans have played have hit hard. New coach, new system. He's got pretty much the rest of this season to almost try things out. You'd think. I think the push for finals is almost gone. Is gone. So he's got half a season to test things out, see what works, and then come back stronger next year.
I want to expand on one thing before we move on. The 2 grand final losses over the last 3 years, just being battered in both. So we talk about the one against Geelong, beat by, I don't even want to talk about how many points, and just from 5 minutes into the game, it's game over. Or halfway through the first quarter, it's game over. And, we were a young team at that time. We were not expected to make finals that year at the start of the year. Halfway through the year, not expected to make top 4. Going into finals, not expected to go anywhere. And then we, exceeded our expectations and then got battered in the grand final. To get yourself back up from that was incredibly impressive, and that was tough. So the year after that, we shouldn't have made finals. We got away with it. And then to get yourself back up the next year and make the grand final again, this time as a peaking side, playing the best footy in the competition throughout the year, and to be the favourites going into the grand final and then get battered just as badly as you did 2 years ago, it's really hard to get up again when you've gone through that whole mental battle, and what came of it was embarrassment, humiliation, shame. So I think there's very clearly mental scars with every single player that's been through those 2 grand final losses. And, this sort of trough, you can understand for that reason. So I'm not being hateful to any individual, but yeah, the Swans have to understand that there's a hole to dig out of, essentially. But we're ready to move on.
Yeah, we'll go straight into the footy pyramid. Now, season goes on, tough to make changes, and especially during the bye rounds, it's tough to judge whether players should move up or down. But we have 2 outs. Jesse Hogan's out, ineffective the last 2 matches, especially in this one. And Zach Merritt's out of the pyramid. Isn't playing badly. I just think some guys deserve to be in my top 15.
Anyone who's been in the top 15 last week is not playing bad footy. Yep.
Yeah, no, 100%. If you're in the top 15 now, you've had a real consistent run of performances. So means we have 2 new ins, and they're both coming in the 5th tier. Hugh McCluggage is going to be entering the pyramid. I'm not sure. Could be the first time he's ever entered the pyramid since we've been doing this segment, started last year. And Jamie Elliott is going to enter the pyramid. He's 2nd in the Coleman, and had Jeremy Cameron not kicked the garbage time goals in the 4th quarter.
The GOAT of garbage time.
100%. It'd be a lot closer in the Coleman medal, but what he's doing every week to be a forward target at his height, clunking marks and kicking incredibly straight. I mean, we don't see that too often from a small forward. It was Jack Higgins early on in the season, Paul Curtis, but Jamie Elliott has stormed right ahead, and he's looking down the barrel of an All-Australian spot.
Just by far the best year of his entire career already, and he's 32 years old.
100%. Joining him in the 5th tier, no movements, Sam Taylor, Patrick Cripps, and Jordan Dawson, who I really wanted to move up, but I couldn't quite find a spot for him. In the 4th tier, Dacos is going to hold his spot. Noah Anderson's going to hold his spot. Jeremy Cameron's going to hold his spot. I think, yes, he kicked another bag of goals, but 4 in the 4th quarter, I'm not going to...
Nah, I think Jeremy Cameron's a top 2 or 3 player in the league.
I understand, but we're going to keep moving on. And Tristan Sherry's going to hold his spot.
Love it.
Moving up a tier, Liberatore is going to hold his spot. Gorn didn't have his greatest game. However, I didn't want to move him down just off one bad performance because he's put the team on his back, I feel, in the last few games. And Isaac Heaney has moved down a tier into the 3rd tier.
Yep.
Moving into the 2nd tier, Marcus Bontempelli is going to hold his spot on the bye. And Bailey Smith is going to move up a tier, now sitting in the 2nd tier. And Ed Richards is on top. On the bye.
You can't kick a guy out when he has a bye. The top spot's sacred.
I agree. He's going to hold his spot. Bailey Smith enters the top 3 players in the competition. Brownlow favourite.
Heavy Brownlow, $3.50 or something now.
And who's taking votes off him?
Yeah, it's a terrible time to put money on Bailey Smith to win the Brownlow because the odds are not good. But we're going to jump into the better segment, the power rankings. We start off in 18th, and we're not keeping the same 18, 17, 16 that we've had throughout the last 6 or 7 rounds.
And you were going to put sticky tape on the bottom 3 for the rest of the season.
I was just going to sticky tape around them. West Coast do stay in 18.
Oh, okay? No, I thought they were the ones moving.
No. Damn. They put in a solid performance. I'm not going to drop North with the bye. North stay in 17th.
Wait.
In 16th is the Sydney Swans.
Oh! I was wondering who was going to go down.
It's the Sydney Swans, and with these last 2 performances, I said to Aiden this week, when West Coast were almost going to win against Geelong, I said, Sydney are the only team in the league right now that isn't competitive. Obviously, they have a much higher ceiling at the moment than North and West Coast, but they are the most uncompetitive team in the league right now, and I think for that reason, and considering what Richmond have been putting up week to week, almost getting it done and should have got it done against GWS this week, I'm moving Richmond up above the Swans.
Okay, so follow-up
question. Could Swans have put in that performance against GWS at the moment?
No. Well, they did beat GWS a few years ago, but there's a follow-up question.
Yeah.
The Swans play Richmond at the MCG on the weekend. Last year...
It's a fight for 15th on the power.
No, but last year, that game was a bogey game for the Swans. They went on an incredible run and they got pumped by Richmond at the MCG. Who wins that game? Because
I have no clue what the betting odds are.
Richmond can leapfrog the Swans on the table here.
Can we put the betting odds up on the screen, or is that a big ask?
I can try.
Yeah.
Just there, if I can get the betting odds on the screen, we'll do it. Rich Swans you'd think would be favourites.
You'd think so. They will be. They'll be like $1.30, $1.40 favourites, I reckon. But Richmond are putting up performances like almost got it done against GWS this week. Ridiculous comeback from GWS. 4-point loss a couple of weeks ago. Won the week before that. Putting up competitive performances and really overperforming compared to their list. And then when you contrast that to what the Swans are putting up, I'm just going to credit Richmond with what they've been doing here.
The Swans are the favourites.
Yeah. What odds?
$1.46.
Yeah. So in 14 we got Port Adelaide. Where's that compared to last week, Aiden?
Same.
Yep, with the bye, they stay in the same spot. St Kilda move up a couple of places here.
Yeah.
Really nice win. Ross Lyons just pulls these
when he gets it right, they really do get it right. I don't understand it, but...
Melbourne, 5 wins in 6, and then St Kilda just do this.
They did the same to Fremantle a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I think...
Going through a tough patch of form, and he got it right, and Freo had their worst game of the year as well.
I think you said last week or the week before, St Kilda, most confusing team in the league by quite a distance this year. GWS were confusing, but now they're just in shit form. It's not confusing. But, St Kilda, confusing, up a couple places. Essendon, 12th. Despite the loss to Brisbane, it was a very solid performance. Brisbane don't really blow anyone out of the water this season. But Essendon, yes, they are not playing amazing footy, but they're 6 wins, 5 losses.
I don't think Brisbane have gone into first gear this year. No. I think they've just been playing the footy with the talent they have on their list, and that's just been enough at the moment.
Completely. And then with the bye, Carlton sit in 11th. And then you have Melbourne moving down a couple of places. 5 wins in 6, you just got to recognise. And a performance like this from St Kilda was bound to happen at some point, because we've talked about the sort of key players that they have that aren't being utilised, and then we saw them being utilised this week. Wangani Malira, huge second half. Sinclair throughout the game. these prime movers were put into good use this week, I reckon. And then Melbourne suffered the loss at the hands of that. GWS now in 9th. If they didn't have the players that they'd have and didn't have the potential that we know they have, they'd be about 12th right now with the footy that they're putting up. Should not have got across the line against Richmond this week. Should have plummeted in these power rankings, but they've just held themselves up in 9th. Hawthorn dropped to 8th.
Interesting one, Hawthorn.
Really interesting one. Came into the year with the form that they've had over the last couple of years, just building at such a rapid rate, bringing in amazing recruits, arguably the best recruitment of any team this offseason. And however, their midfield is really struggling. It seems like Will Day is a huge out, and for whatever reason, none of their midfielders are in hot form at the moment, and it's costing them.
And they've got the Bulldogs followed up by Adelaide before they go into the bye. So really tough next few weeks.
Yeah, Bulldogs and Adelaide, two of the hottest teams, as you'll see in these power rankings. Fremantle in 7th. Now, I am so proud of myself. This is the one call that I've stuck to this year that has really been right. When Fremantle were in terrible form, I've kept them in the top 8 of this power rankings basically throughout the year because I just think they're fucking stacked. Shea Bolton has found his footy over the last however many weeks. Their midfield, really solid. Luke Jackson, been maybe the best ruckman in the league across with Gordon. Yeah. Did anyone else see the centre bounce appearance this week where Sean Darcy rucked and Luke Jackson roved along with Brayshaw and Sarong? I absolutely loved it, and I think he got the clearance. I think Jackson got the centre clearance. He is, the most agile ruckman in the league, along with a guy like maybe Mark Blitzarves, but Jackson's got that athleticism. He's a bit of a freak player, a one of a kind, and he is just firing on all cylinders right now, leading this team. In 6th, you got Adelaide, who you'd argue they should be higher, but how do I explain why I've put them in 6th? It's a vibe. I pull that out every now and again when I can't justify where I've placed the team.
Well, they've got Adelaide and Hawthorn coming up, so again,
they've got Adelaide.
Oh, Brisbane.
Yeah. Well, 2 enormous games for Adelaide to see if they can hold their reputation as a top 4 team this year. Bulldogs, I'm going to keep in 5th. They now sit outside the 8.
Game behind though.
Game behind, sitting in 9th. But you look at some of the metrics. They're top 4 in the league in terms of percentage, and we know what they can do.
The vibe is good.
The vibe is incredibly high with the Bulldogs, coming off a loss before the bye, but not an embarrassing loss at all. They played incredibly good footy against Geelong and couldn't kick straight enough. But that's not been an issue for them this year, and they are playing really awesome footy, I believe. So based on vibes, I'm really happy to have them up here. Brisbane in 4th. Now, I moved them up because they're just continuing to get it done. As much as I don't like the footy they're playing, and it's a bit dissatisfying that they can't seem to, as you say, get in first gear, they're getting it done. In all likelihood, they'll have a top 4 spot, and they'll be poised to start getting into first gear as the runway to final starts approaching. 3rd and 2nd, we have got Geelong leapfrogging Gold Coast from last week. Gold Coast with the loss to Fremantle. Fremantle playing great footy, but it was a bit of a slugfest in the wet, which I think that is sometimes a good indicator of finals footy because it's never going to be clean, it's never going to be easy. And Geelong, on the other hand, just get it done against West Coast. Not the most glorious performance, but similarly to Brisbane, they're never going to have to get into first gear. They are just an absolute powerhouse. And then speaking of powerhouses, Collingwood in number 1. Hard to see them dropping from this place. Yeah. I think, I haven't looked at any odds or haven't really heard what the media are saying about premiership favouritism at this point, but I have Collingwood as a head and shoulders favourite to win the premiership this year. Everything about them just screams premier. No real weakness in their team at the moment.
The one thing I will say is it's a problem when teams peak too early. And a lot of other podcasts have mentioned it, that a lot of teams that have this run and are sitting at the top of the ladder at this part of the season don't actually go on to win the premiership.
This was the level of dominance that the Swans had last year at this point in the year. We had 10 straight wins, which finished at about this point. So, it's an interesting one.
That we have now, you'd have to put your money on Collingwood.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think that if there's a team that has the experience to find the momentum when they need to later in the year, it's this team. The most experienced side in football history, by quantitatively. So, and then the eye test as well. They are so good. Like Hawthorn are a team that don't get beaten comfortably these days. They simply don't, and Collingwood just battered them.
And they let Nick Dacos walk around free.
Yeah.
Amazing. Finn McInnes is the sub, and Nick Dacos runs around by himself.
Yeah, I'm not going to say I'd be a better coach than the Hawthorn coach, but the most successful tag that I've seen in years is Finn McGuinness on Nick Dacos, and they didn't do it. So I don't know what I was watching.